The decision to launch Electrosilk is born in a midnight boardroom pulse of restlessness and ambition, a visceral need for Ridge to yank Forrester Creations back to the bleeding edge of couture after too many cautious seasons. And once the deal with the Kyocei Tech Consortium of Osaka is sealed, the entire house transforms into a frantic engine of innovation, humming night after night as chemists weave microscopic silver filaments into gossamer threads while Thomas sketches silhouettes meant to flicker like auroras under the runway lights, all of it financed by an anonymous investor whose wired funds arrive with the strictest non-disclosure clauses anyone on the legal team has ever seen. Eric, weary yet proud, slashes the R&D budget in other divisions to keep the Electrosilk line on schedule, reasoning that a public triumph now will refill the coffers later. But the accountant's warnings about razor-thin safety margins disappear beneath the gloss of projected profits and the thrill of unveiling a fabric that can literally translate human heartbeat into radiant color. When debut night finally comes, the showroom outside Los Angeles is converted into an amphitheater of glass and chrome, every seat occupied by editors, buyers, influencers, and rival designers who crane for a glimpse of the future. Luna glides backstage like a comet in quiet orbit, the luminous prototype gown breathing with every thud of her heart, and Finn slips into the front row not as physician, but as silent guardian, drawn by an intuition he cannot name. Steffi, icy sure in a tailored obsidian pantsuit, patrols the wings directing models with clipped authority while Ridge and Brooke hover beside the primary fuse panel checking redundancy charts, both unaware that a hairline crack in the batteries sewn into Luna's train has deepened under the baking heat of rehearsal lamps. The house lights extinguish, the music surges. Electrosilk awakens in pulsing waves of emerald across Luna's torso as she steps onto the catwalk, the audience gasping when the gown blushes scarlet at the crescendo of her adrenaline. Yet the applause is still blooming when the first plume of white smoke slithers along the hem. Stage hands misread it as theatrical haze, but Finn is already on his feet, nostrils flaring at the bite of burning polymer. Within seconds, a bead of flame licks upward, swallowing the delicate circuits, triggering a chain reaction as the embedded power cells short-circuit and explode in staccato pops. Luna staggers, blinded by sparks, and Finn vaults the barricade, shrugging off security, scooping her into his arms while synthetic embers spiral onto the catwalk carpet and ignite it like dry grass. The sprinkler system falters, cheap valves, a casualty of Eric's cost cuts. So heat billows unchecked, glass panels spiderweb and shatter, and backstage rigging groans as steel braces warp. Ridge pushes Brooke toward a side exit, but a falling light truss slams across the doorway, trapping them behind a curtain that hisses and curls into itself. Out front, the audience stampedes toward emergency exits, while Steffi marshals the models into a single file and shouts for calm, her voice raw against alarms, yet she refuses to leave until headcount is confirmed. Thomas, seeing the main power grid still feeding the stage, sprints through rolling smoke to the control booth, fingers bleeding as he rips cables from junction boards until the hall plunges into darkness and the fire loses its electrical lifeline. But not before tongues of orange leap into the archive vault beneath the runway, devouring years of sketches, molds, and the only unreleased Electrosilk patterns. By the time firefighters beat down the blaze, the showroom is a skeletal silhouette against dawn, the air heavy with ash and the metallic tang of dreams turned slag. News helicopters circle overhead, broadcasting footage that loops across every screen before the flames are even cold, and by midday major retailers announce suspension of purchase orders, citing consumer safety concerns, while social media seethes with slow-motion clips of Luna alight like a human torch. Crisis teams scramble, yet a deeper blow lands when an anonymous source leaks backstage security footage to the press, a shaky clip of Bill Spencer in discreet negotiation with KOCI executives. His voice low but clear as he urges them to accelerate battery testing to meet the immutable premiere date, threatening withdrawal of capital if targets slip. Within hours, journalists connect the dots. Spencer Publications is the phantom financier, and Bill's ultimatum drove the fatal shortcuts. Forrester's legal counsel drafts breach of contract notices, accusing Spencer of negligent interference. Bill retaliates by claiming Ridge misrepresented safety compliance, unleashing a defamation countersuit so massive it could bankrupt both houses if fully litigated. Finn tends to Luna in intensive care, her lungs scored by smoke, and discovers microscopic shards of lithium embedded near her collarbone that may require delicate surgery. Guilt floods him that he could not stop the show before ignition. Steffi, torn between mother, wife, and CEO, convenes an emergency board meeting inside a hotel ballroom because headquarters smells of soot, arguing that rebuilding is possible only if they frame Spencer as the singular villain, but Eric, voice thin and tremulous, confesses the R&D cuts and begs forgiveness, fracturing the family's united front. Meanwhile, Thomas isolates a corrupted file in the lighting software, evidence that someone remotely disabled temperature alarms during finale rehearsals. Suspicion ricochets toward Quinn, toward Pam, toward even Brooke in conspiratorial whispers. Yet cyberforensics trace the breach to a server farm leased by a Spencer shell company. The revelation detonates across news feeds. Bill not only financed, but digitally sabotaged the venue to guarantee Forrester dependence on his capital for post-launch expansion, a scheme now transformed into potential criminal recklessness. Federal investigators subpoena email records, shareholders file class action suits, insurance carriers balk, leaving Ridge to contemplate liquidation of European warehouses to cover medical settlements. Under flickering hospital fluorescence, Brooke grips Ridge's soot-blackened hand and vows they will not surrender the legacy their families bled for. Across town, Bill stands in his penthouse, city lights reflected in glass, unblinking as litigation pings cascade onto his phone, calculating the odds of survival within a storm he himself seeded. Yet even as legal teams marshal and reputations convulse, a flicker of defiance endures. In a borrowed design studio lit by bare bulbs, Thomas and Steffi pin surviving charred fragments of electro-silk to corkboard, tracing new patterns in the scars, swearing that Forrester will rise from cinders to unveil a line reborn, one whose first stitch will pulse not with electricity, but with the raw, unbreakable heartbeat of family that refuses to die.